Before we take off here,
Sure.
explain more your writing process. How
Yeah.
like you specifically go about writing a book, and then what's on the horizon for you next?
Yeah. Well, nowadays I have to be able to write a book with a very short deadline. With my publisher, it's around 3 months. I need to get a first draft to them. And
Okay.
the books that they have signed with me are between 80 and 90,000 words. So I have about 3 months to pump out a
Okay.
novel. So for that reason, I've had to kind of change how I would usually write a book.
Okay.
I'm a hardcore plotter now. When I used to write for myself, I would kind of just pants my way through things with a very light outline. But now my outlines tend to be around 35 pages. So they're extremely long. But before I really start working on a project, I'm very much about the message. I am a firm believer that if someone picks up my book, I need to say something that matters. I need to say something worthwhile, because yes, there it is. There she is. But if someone picks my book, it's a direct link between me, and that person. Like I have an hour. They've given me a few hours of their time for me to speak into their life, and so I want to say something that matters. So I usually start with a message or at least a concept of what I really want to talk
So
about.
that's what you start with
Yeah, so I
when you
start with the
write.
message. So with
Okay.
Dearest Josephine, I knew I wanted to really look at fantasies of romance versus reality, and um, the connection we can have with words. And so that was kind of the base theme that or the base message that I wanted to go off of. And from there, it was really then the concept came. So it comes with like the message. Then I started to develop a general concept, and then I outline chapter by chapter. I do in-depth character sketches. So by the time I'm done with my outline, it's a meaty piece of work. But I
Wow.
really try to have a handle on what I'm writing before I get started, because I know that with such short time, like just with deadlines, that I need to be able to move swiftly and precisely.
So do
So
you like you have the message and then the plot, but you do like all the research and everything before you write it?
a lot of times, or at least some of the general research. I mean, when I'm working on a chapter, if I need to know, I mean, for example, with Dear Josephine, a lot of my Google searches were diagram of a carriage or names of garments that people wore in Regency, or what time do they have their afternoon tea, like little things
Yeah.
like that. So, when I was working on that chapter, I might do some of that research. But when it comes to the broad research, I did that beforehand. Uh, but yeah, I mean, even when there is such a tight outline, there's always going to be a revision. And that's what I'm working on now too. I mean, with Dear Josephine, I think the outline was super tight, but once my editor looked at it, we changed several things in the book just to make it more market friendly.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of my process though. I'm a hardcore outliner. I'm a very visual writer. So I do Pinterest. I have Spotify that has like a playlist
Oh,
for it. I do all the things. I love doing research trips if able, just because
mhm.
I like to insert some of my own experiences into my work. I think it's so important as an artist in general, whether an artist is a writer or a painter or a musician, to find a common ground with what they're creating. And so in every single book that I write, I've kind of found that to be a tried and true method, even if the book isn't, something I relate with completely. Be able to find or be able to put little sprinkles of myself or whatever into the writing helps me to find that common ground with the work. So I try to do that as well whenever I'm working, even if that's, for example, Mrs. Capers in Dear Josephine is the name of
Your English teacher.
my English teacher,
Yeah.
who I'm still like, best friends with. She taught me all throughout middle and high school, and she's still my closest friends. I think I told her I would put her in every single one of my books, so she's gonna be my Where's Waldo. Like in every one of my books, people will be able to look
Do
and
you have
find
a
Mrs.
few
Capers.
when you write, do you have like a few things like that where you slip in?
Like little Easter eggs. I think Mrs.
Yeah.
Capers is the biggest one.
Okay.
But so she's going to be one that's going to keep going. I'd love to, in every book I write, hint at other work somehow, even if it's a name or a reference that only
Yeah.
certain people would understand. But she's the biggest. I think I've referenced other teachers in my work before, or
Okay.
people in my life. I kind of slide them in there. One
So
day
what
someone's gonna read my book and be like, wait, did you put me in this?
it'll be a nice little thing.
You're welcome.
What's your Spotify look like when you wrote this?
Oh, it's a really long playlist. I have a playlist called Dearest Josephine, and it's a mix of a lot of instrumental scores.
Okay.
You know, some. I mean, really, it's a hot mess of music. But I have a Dearest Josephine playlist, but then I also have character playlists. So I have one for Elias that I listened to when I was working on his letters. That
Oh,
so it's
interesting.
very thematic, and a lot of it is the soundtrack from The King that came out a few years ago. So it's
With
a lot of
Timothy
violin.
Chalamet,
Yeah.
right?
So a lot of violin sounds a little morose to it. And then with Josie, hers is more of a contemporary feel, still with that little bit of that instrumental music flair. So yeah, lots of different musics.
So your upcoming book, did
Yeah,
you create, can you tell us a little bit about that, and then what your Spotify playlist will look like for
sure.
that?
So my next book is called The Summer We Forgot. It releases in November from Thomas Nelson HarperCollins. I'm still working on it. I have seen the cover for it, and the cover is amazing. I think my jaw hit the floor when I saw it. So I'm a huge fan. But my editor and I are pitching it as if Taylor Swift narrated a murder drama. So it's very nostalgic. Yeah. So it's very nostalgic. I really wanted to kind of tap into uh, kind of the fear factor of memories and the question, are we more of what we remember or what we forget? I think, you know,
Mm.
we're all living in a coming of age story, but I think that there's something kind of unsettling about childhood memories, even if they're good. I was hanging out with my sisters weeks ago, and we were all swapping things that we remembered about, you know, growing up, middle school, high school, people we knew, things we regretted. And even though a lot of the memories we talked about were good, we all left feeling a little uneasy. Like we were all like, why do we feel so weird about talking about this? Like, why was this weird? And I think that that there's something about memories that I find so interesting. And so the story is about a group of teenagers who were once friends, but they've since kind of drifted apart. It takes place in the summer, and their former science teacher turns up dead in the summer camp where they were going to be camp counselors. So when this happens, they all realize that they
Mm.
forgot the whole summer from 2 years ago. And so the whole book is they're trying to solve this murder, but more than that, it's they're wrestling with identity, you know, their views of themselves. You know, could we have done this? You know, the idea of the victim, like, are we victims, you know, because someone's done this to us, or, you know, are we criminals? Like, so it kind of
Interesting.
wrestles with these different things. So it's been super fun. My playlist for it probably has a lot of it has a lot of alternative rock and some
Oh,
like some, I guess, angsty emotional music.
yeah.
But it's been fun because I have thought I grew up going to summer camp, and so I've been able to bring in a lot of like my summer camp experiences. It takes place on 30A, which is a strip of highway, a scenic highway in Florida, which is a huge destination, like tourist
Okay.
destination spot. So I grew up going there, so I was able to bring in some of that. I went on a school marine camp when I was in fifth grade with a teacher, and so I just have brought in a lot of different things from my own experience. I mean, I'm going to dedicate the book to my sister Sheely, but also to everyone who knew me in high school, which is kind of, so I've like been thinking so much about just coming of age and what that looks like.
Yeah.
So really excited about that book. It's very different from Dearest Josephine, but I love that my publishing team has been uh, so supportive of me trying new things.